On our cultural agenda this evening, we're joined by Roy T. Anderson, a Jamaican-born producer of 2 award-winning documentaries. He's also an actor, stunt coordinator, and filmmaker, and he's here to discuss the documentation of black culture. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, Mr. Anderson.
The honor's all mine. Thank you for having me on your show.
So I want to find out what inspires you, because it seems that you focus on strong black leaders. You did that amazing film on Queen Nanny, and now you have a new project looking at Marcus Garvey, the first national hero.
Well, no doubt I'm a proud Jamaican, and maroon blood is coursing through my vein, as is Marcus Garvey. So, you know, when I started my first film about 10, 11 years ago, I started out to chart my journey, but then I decided that, or found out that the story of the Maroons is much more significant than my story. So, which led to A Quantum of the Journey, my first film. And then my second film was Nanny. She was probably the greatest Maroon ever, you know, in Jamaica. And thirdly, we have our Marcus Garvey film, African Redemption, The Life Legacy of Marcus Garvey. What's, you know, the overlying theme, you know, throughout all of those films is this theme of resistance. And this is something that, the story that I like to tell, because it's so heroic, you know, what our ancestors were able to achieve. And these are stories that are not being told, or if they are being told, it's skewed through the lens of the storytellers. So as a lion, I'm telling the story.
Mm-hmm. And explain to us the concept. When you think about telling Marcus Garvey's story, where did you start?
Well, it started with Dr. Julius Garvey, the son of Marcus Garvey, the youngest, who laid the groundwork or inspired me to do this film. But unfortunately, it came at a time when I was finishing up my second film on Nanny, and I had to say to Dr. Garvey, you know what, sir, I can't do this because, you know, when I set my mind to something, I like to give it 100%, and I couldn't give that to Garvey at that time. But as luck would have it, 3 years later, we connected, you know, laid the foundation, the groundwork for this film, and we have the end product there in African Redemption.
Is there anything that was particularly surprising to you as you delved into Marcus Garvey's journey?
I didn't hear that last question. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to find out if there was anything that was surprising as you know, went into this work looking at Marcus Garvey up close.
Well, I find it surprising that the bunch of folks who have seen the film so far, some of them are disappointed when they hear that the words "emancipate yourself from mental slavery," which is in Bob Marley's song, weren't actually Bob Marley's own words. I mean, these were something that was recited by Marcus Garvey in 1937. So that's one. And the length to which that meeting with Marcus Garvey and the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in 1920 in Atlanta, Edwin Young Clark. A lot of people don't know about that, and the folks that do know about it want to sweep it under the rug. But I figured I had to tell the story in its fullest, you know, as they would say, warts and all. As a storyteller, I try to be as objective as possible, and I hope at the end of the day, you know, I was able to achieve that.
Mm. So one of the people in your film described Marcus Garvey as the greatest Jamaican who ever lived. What's your view on that?
I have, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I mean, some would say Usain Bolt, some would say Bob Marley, but Marcus Garvey set the tone for all who came after him. You know, not just Jamaicans, but for famous individuals all around the world, you know, from Martin Luther King to Malcolm X to Nelson Mandela, and you know, Kwame Nkrumah, the late president of Ghana. I mean, these folks all pay homage to this man who inspired them. I mean, he really was a catalyst, you know, to these succeeding generations of African and African descendant leaders throughout the world that followed him.
And what has been the reception so far? I know that it has been premiered already in parts of the region. What has been the reception so far?
Michelle, it has been phenomenal. You know, folks are telling me that, or at least one writer said, this is the first film to vindicate the legacy of Marcus Garvey. Another one said, this is the definitive story on Marcus Garvey. I didn't say that. And if those praise keep coming my way, I'm certainly not going to say no. And, that's what I set out to do when I was doing this film. So when people watch this, I spent hours and hours and hours in the library, in the research room, locked up, in my office. My wife, at the door, I said, listen, I can't talk to you. She said, supper's ready. I said, put supper away. It might have to wait until. So I really sunk into this thing here.
Was the aim to change the narrative? What exactly were you hoping, in terms of just a response and how people now see and view Marcus Garvey?
You hit the nail right on the head, Michelle, because for so often, Marcus Garvey has been presented as a caricature. He's been misrepresented in history. He's maligned, not only in film, but also scholastic works. So that's what I try to do, when doing this film, was just to try and just correct that narrative. I know that the story that I told it may not have everything in it for everyone, but basically I felt that I laid the framework from which others who have the level of expertise could join in the conversation and lead some, focused discussion.
So this film, Jamaicans will get an opportunity to see it over the Heroes weekend. But you want to continue this work of documenting black culture. What's next after this project?
Well, it's not only just black culture, but I want to document the resistance history of black and brown individuals. Their history is heroic. Another theme in my films have been this whole David and Goliath syndrome. I celebrate when the weak, triumph over the strong. And that's a universal theme, irrespective of, what race you belong to, what color of your skin is. It's overriding. So much more to come from me.
I want to ask you your view on the Jamaican film scene. We've just opened the new 007 film, part of which was shot in Portland. What's your impression of how the Jamaican film scene has been developing?
Well, I'm excited by that, and I have some folks in there that I'm really close with. One, Natalie Thompson, who is my co-producer on this film. Jason Levy, my cinematographer. There are some talented folks in Jamaica, and I just think that if given the opportunity, they can rise, and be just as good as, and put out just as good a product as you see out there in the world. So the sky's the limit for the Jamaican film scene, and I'm very, very excited about it, and I'm very excited, also to be a part of it.
I want to pick up with you on that idea of opportunities. What sorts of opportunities do our local film people need?
Well, I think that you need definitely folks who are experienced and who have the patience and sometimes, the resources to be able to, you don't have to actually physically travel to Jamaica, to do these workshops and so forth. But I think that we're heading in the right direction. There have been partnership, from entities in Great Britain, and also partnership from Canada as well. And I'd like to see some more, coming from the country where I'm living right now, the U.S. And I think if that continues, then that would really bode well for a burgeoning industry in Jamaica.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Roy T. Anderson. Congratulations on the work and the awards that you're getting.
Thank you. Honor being on your show, and thank you for having me.